907. Proceed to reorientation.
Video game pets come in many shapes and sizes, from World of Warcraft's Pokemon-esque companions to those in The Sims that echo our real-life counterparts. Most cases see them added for extra flavor, but rarely stepping to the forefront. That's why Falcon Age easily caught my attention, promising to not only let me dress up my pet Falcon with cool hats and monocles, but also make it an integral part of the journey. In Falcon Age, you step into the shoes of Ara, an inhabitant of a planet overrun by an interplanetary corporation hell-bent on exploiting its resources regardless of the effects it has on its environment and people. You start off in a prison guarded by the corporation's robots, with the Falcon Mother and her offspring as your only accidental companions. The sacrifice of the same Falcon Mother, alongside a robot more or less going insane from applying the same questionnaire each day, facilitates your escape from daily labor. That's also how you come into possession of your very own Falcon. Falcon Age's themes of colonization and exploitation might attempt to shine the light on a noble pursuit, but ultimately everything in its narrative, from your character's motivation to the other NPCs you meet along the way, is paper thin. The conflict you're dragged into plays out in simple black or white terms, hitting some terribly cliché notes. Coupled with limited amounts of voice acting of doubtful quality, saving your home planet from its abusive robot overlords isn't all that compelling by itself. Luckily, that's where your Falcon comes in. From the moment you get hold of your pet, you're a veritable tag team that progressively stick it to the oppressive regime. The first few missions see you dealing with your baby Falcon, learning how to feed and care for it. You learn to target prey for it to hunt, the meat returned being cookable in a few specific spots that have utensils. Feeding the Falcon can heal it up and provide bonuses later in combat against robots. Its ability to fly also means that the Falcon can get things that are out of your reach. Falcon Age shows a bit of attention to detail here, letting you choose between having the Falcon drop objects into your hand while airborne, or calling it and waiting until it sets down on your arm, only to gently remove whatever is holding in its beak. In order to issue all these commands, you resort to a few set controls. Right-clicking sends the bird to a target, prompting it to either attack or grab an item. Then you can call back with R and press E to take the item away and X to add it to your inventory. Alternatively, extending your hand is done by holding E, after which pressing R prompts the Falcon to drop the item, that then makes its way into your inventory automatically. It's not long until the Falcon turns into a proper weapon and you can take the fight to the corporation itself. Early on, Ara gets access to corporation equipment in the form of a baton which she can strike enemies with and shut down their structures, as well as a whip which is used in immobilizing foes. The way combat in Falcon Age works is simple. You use your whip to disorient the foe, then send your Falcon in to make it vulnerable, after which you mindlessly bash away at it with your baton. It's a simple, weightless example of combat whose sheen, sadly, doesn't last long. There's little subtlety to it, and all robots can be taken down in a similar manner. In between the generous checkpoint system and the ease with which enemies are downed, completing Falcon Age was a breeze. The refineries you shut down only ever have a handful of enemies and structures to deal with, and while I did have to pull a few syringes out of my Falcon due to a few nasty turrets I didn't deal with in advance, there never was any sense of pressure or urgency to eliminating the corporate overlords. Tag teaming robots with your Falcon, dressing it up in all manners of clothes, and brofisting it whenever you want are good enough steps towards creating a bond with the bird. However, Falcon Age fails to fully capitalize on its most distinctive aspect, since it doesn't take it further than these few actions, meaning that it fails to transcend the status of a simple game system. As much as equipping it with better gear, which you can buy from the game's sole vendor, does insert a very frail semblance of progress, that doesn't do much to lift these constraints. On top of this, Falcon Age also suffers from a handful of technical issues, including slow texture streaming and visible pop-in, bearing the mark of a project designed as a showcase for VR rather than a full-on PC game. Its world is rather small, navigable solely through linear paths. As you'll tread past the same boring patch of desert and rocks a number of times before the adventure ends, the emptiness of the planet becomes evident as even its few populated areas feel like simple bundles of assets haphazardly thrown together. On the whole, Falcon Age feels stitched together from several parts that fail to make a cohesive experience. Talking to inhabitants reveals lackluster animations and even more lackluster side quests. The world, although occasionally pretty, feels empty, and the drama at its core, while tackling serious topics, fails to trigger any response from the player. In the 5 hours I spent with Falcon Age, the only thing I was looking forward to was seeing how the game expands on the way I interacted with my bird and where it would take that relationship. Sadly, I only found a rather limited moveset and a brusque, unsatisfying ending to an otherwise forgettable experience, at least outside of playing it in virtual reality.